Thank you very much for staying with us. You're welcome back to Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am joined by a member-elect of House of Representatives representing the Obaru Federal Constituency of Anambra State, Honorable Victor Afam Ogene. We're discussing the race to the 10th National Assembly as the battle for the principal position heats up. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Honorable.
Good evening, Jumoke, for having me, and good evening, Nigerians.
It is a pleasure. Now, before we get into the core parts of our discussion tonight, let's talk about you for a minute. You were a news magazine editor for years before becoming a politician. Why did you go into politics?
Well, I went into politics, elective office, precisely by happenstance. I was editor of the Source magazine, but by 2010, the guy who was representing my constituency had some issues, and we felt that we had to stand in opposition against his desire to return for a second tenure. And in the midst of all of that, some key players who were on ground, I lived in Lagos, said, no, why can't you throw your hat in the ring? That as a journalist you've been criticizing, you can also come and make a difference if you feel you're up to it. Prior to that time, I had not even contested a councillorship position besides the Guild of Editors Politics, of which I was a standing member of the Guild at the time. And so I took up the challenge and joined the All Progressives Congress, APGA, which had Governor Peter Obi at the time as the headsman in Anambra State. And by virtue of the fact that he also knew my position regarding the shenanigans in Anambra politics at the time, he also welcomed my entry into the political field. Luckily, I won that election after the Tribunal Court of Appeal, even up to the Supreme Court. My victory was reaffirmed, and we found ourselves at a critical junction in the nation's history as part of the 7th Assembly House of Representatives, as led by now Sokoto Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal.
So, you know, because they say politics is for the tough-minded, especially politics in Nigeria, how easy was it for you to adjust to life as a politician?
Well, when you come into a venture with an altruistic mind, it will be easy for you to get along. And so, because prior to that time I had been secretary of the umbrella organization of all of Obaru people in Lagos for about 8 years, so I should say I was at home with the people of Obaru, both in Lagos and back home in the village. Since I finished secondary school over 40 years ago, I've not done the usual Christmas rush. I count myself as one of those who always go back home. I've always done Christmas in my little village in Obaru. And so I'm in touch with the people. So it was an easy transition, moving from journalism to real active politicking.
All right. So you moved into the Labour Party to the surprise of many people. What did you see in the Labour Party?
First, you have to believe in principles, in leaders. Some people call it godfatherism, but I think that it has to do more with a leader that you believe in his or her policies. In this case, like I said, I joined the All Progressives Congress, then led by, at the time, Governor Peter Obi. So when he left the PDP sometime in May 2022, he threw the gates open and asked some of us who were close to him and who believed in his philosophy to come along. Because in a movement, yes, a man can drive it, but it doesn't take a single individual to change the world. So he also needed some of us who bought into his vision earlier enough to come on board and spread the message. That was how I found myself easily getting absorbed into the labor movement.
Yes, your election was not a stroll in the park, but was there a time you felt you may not get a chance to return to the House?
Yes, it had to do with the role of money in Nigerian politics. Having stayed out of the House for about 8 years, having left in 2015, you're right, it could not have been a stroll in the park because of the heavy influence of money. When you call people for a meeting, of course, if people have paid money, 2,000, 3,000 as transport costs to come and attend your meeting, you're also expected to, if nothing, give them back, their transport costs. We've not evolved to the level where supporters actually are expected to make financial contributions. And so a lot of people felt that we couldn't make it. But like I said, once you remain true to the people and they feel that you can represent their interests, you can always run an open door policy. Then in this last election, we also shared in the grace which Mr. Peter Obi carried. So it helped us to spread our message to the grassroots. There was an easy buy-in. But besides all of that, I can tell you that those who feel that they're the real politicians who have taken it as a hobby, I do have a second address. And so for the 8 years, I went into online publishing. But those who feel that they live by politics will throw everything into the ring to stop you in your tracks. And they did try, but at the end of the day, through the grace of God and the goodwill of Mr. Peter Obi, here we are today, surmounting all the odds.
So talking about Peter Obi, I know you said it's not godfatherism, but leadership. So was his influence a major factor in your victory?
Yes, I told you first, the all glory goes to God. And then the second major factor is the Peter Obi factor. Because his message resonated amongst the youths. I am from Anambra State like him. So it was also easy for the people of Anambra State, Obaru particularly, to key into the message. We are not selling anything new. They also knew when Peter Obi was on the saddle for 8 years, and he really turned around the state in terms of infrastructure, in terms of bringing civility to the political space and charting the way forward for the state. So it was quite easy for the people to key into our message.
So, as a returnee to the House, what should your Obaru constituents expect this time?
First, they know that my presence in the House of Representatives will give them a voice, which is one of the things I'm doing here with you. I've heard you mention Obaru at least 10 times since your introduction and the program began. So they have a voice. And that voice would only be positive when there are issues that affect Obaru and is taken to the floor. It won't be a new name. I am not one to sit on my palms. I will always talk about our problems, our aspirations, and our desires. Obaru lies on the coast of the Great River Niger, and the seasonal flooding that takes place in Nigeria impacts heavily and negatively on the people of Obaru. So these are areas that we also look out for. Obaru too, being a semi-urban local government or federal constituency, would do with a lot of skills acquisition for the teeming youths that live therein and are from Obaru. So these are things that they know that in the short span of 4 years that I was there before, we did some of that, even though the political climate didn't allow us to return. So it's like getting back getting wiser, getting bolder, and more experienced to represent them this time around.
All right, Honorable Victor, now let's move to the tussle for the principal positions in the 10th National Assembly. With all of this unfolding intrigues, how will you describe it?
Well, if I even have to speak like an outsider, I'm sure that the average Nigerian will be worried about what is going on in the governing All Progressives Congress. Ordinarily, I'm not a member of that party, and it shouldn't bother me. But as a Nigerian, I'm bothered that the incoming administration is almost taking off on a wrong footing. When you give a sense of control over an important institution like the House of Representatives or the National Assembly as a whole, it sends dangerous signals of what is to come. People are already beginning to say, wait a minute, is this how the running of the National Assembly will be interfered with? If in the simple matter of choosing its own leaders, even guaranteed by the grant on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, Section 60 thereof states that the House shall have powers to regulate its own conduct. But even before regulating its own conduct, in Section 51B, it says that the members, talking of the House of Representatives, are expected to choose its own leaders, a speaker and deputy speaker, from among themselves. It does not even talk about the APC as a political party or the Labour Party. So when we have a party like the APC, now microzoning positions to individuals is something to be worried about. You are trying to take away that right of the members to choose their own leaders. And if I may go further, yes, people may say it's an internal party arrangement. It might be an internal party arrangement, but it's also infringing on the rights of the entire membership if you seek to impose a speaker and deputy speaker. Because for one, if I participate freely in the election of these presiding officers, I should own them. I should choose somebody who is relatable, who can treat us as first among equals, who can treat us as colleagues. But if you derive your power from outside the chambers, then the members may not be in for a good time. And this is probably why you see all the rumpus going on, all the back and forth, even within the All Progressives Congress.
So I'm sure a lot of Nigerians are also wondering, why is the race generating so much heat when it's not even a general election?
Well, you should go to the managers of the APC, because it's been repeated often that if you do the same thing the same way over and over, you are bound to get same results. Contemporary Nigerian history, especially as it has to do with the legislature, proves that whenever the executive tries to influence the choice of principal officers, then the members will revolt and seek to put their own leaders. At least our recent history, dating back to, in fact, even from 1999, each time the government stood for a particular candidate, even if they find their way through, as in the case in 1999 with Salisu Obaru, you saw that a few months later, he was gone. And then, when Masari came, because they willingly gave their votes to Masari, he led them and there was no problem. Same thing, Gali Naaba. But when he got to like 2011, and the party, out of some pettiness, decided to zone, because in zoning, there is nothing wrong in zoning, but it must be done on the basis of equity, fairness, and justice. Once you go outside these prisms, the members will revolt. That was what happened in 2011. It was repeated in 2015. Now, 2019, there was a difference. But people should also study the undercurrents. In 2019, the APC had the numbers to play the kind of game he played. But in 2023, for goodness sake, they do not have that numbers. In 2019, I think they had about 242 members. So they could go for an election and, if they have their acts together, produce a speaker. But this time around, where we even have what we will now is now termed as the greater majority of 7 opposition political parties, they should be worried that we can get together and even produce our own speaker and deputy speaker. So I don't know who is advising them, but it's to our benefit. Our only worry is that we are talking about a national project. Because, of course, when you get to the floor of the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, we should be talking Nigeria. And that's why we are worried, like the ordinary Nigerian on the street, that the members must get their acts right from day one.
All right, so definitely I'm going to come to how this whole division favors your side of the story now. But before then, the APC nominated candidates for the 10th National Assembly positions, but the decision is generating reactions such that some aspirants said they will not drop their bids. Is it right to go against the wish of one's party? Honorable Victor.
Even the president-elect did go against the wish of his own political party. Only last year, there was a presidential primaries. And at some point, they floated the idea of a consensus candidate in the current Senate president. But he stood against that and said that in a proper democracy, everybody should be allowed to go to the field and slug it out. At the end of the day, that democratic reasoning sailed through, which was why he was able to stand the election and win. So if that happened only barely a year ago, I don't know why the tables will seek to be turned when it comes to the National Assembly. All the people jostling for this office are all members of the All Progressives Congress, at least as at today. So, and if you have 7 children, the best is to give them all fair chances to stand election. And if you are even going to do zoning, you can say it's going to the North Central, Northeast, Northwest. But when you now zero down on individuals, then there is a hidden agenda behind that kind of recommendation.
All right, Honorable Victor, let me come from this angle. If the APC NWC says this decision is to reduce the scope of contention, shouldn't this be substantive enough for any loyal party member, or does party supremacy only exist when it favors a politician?
No, I told you earlier that any decision, nobody is allowed to obey an unlawful order. Nobody. I think Section 15 of even the Nigerian Constitution precludes anybody from suffering injury on the basis of where you come from, tribe, race, religion, sex. So ordinarily, the Constitution takes precedent. You are supposed to allow everybody, even if you want to talk about pruning the number, then that is where consensus comes into the picture. And consensus entails discussing with everybody who has thrown his or her hat in the ring. In this instance, at least as we know, even from the visit to the APC national headquarters today, they were not carried along. Nobody spoke to them. And when you do that, the fear of everybody is the coming tyranny. It is time-honored saying that power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely. If they do this and get away with it, who knows what is coming next? So it's better to look for the black goat while it's still there. I think that is what has given room to this kind of agitations. And don't forget, if they sit together in a room and prune their number, it's even manageable. But I'm not even, like I said earlier, it favors us in the minority group, the greater majority. They're only giving us a leeway to reenact what happened in 2015 that saw a PDP member emerge as Deputy Senate President. We are all here to serve our country in Nigeria. And if in the service of Nigeria, I hurt one man, I think I will be happier than for it.
All right, tonight on the program, we're discussing the race to the 10th National Assembly as the battle for the principal position heats up with the member-elect of the House of Representatives representing the Obaru Federal Constituency of Anambra State, Victor Afam Ogene. This discussion continues after this break. Please stay with us.
All in favor say aye. Those against no, the ayes have it.
What do you know about the legislature, its role in governance, and as one of the three arms of government? Lagos Parliament is here to bring it to you as it is. Here to bring you every detail you need to know about the legislature in Africa's most populous city. On Lagos Parliament, you get a chance to meet the lawmaker of the week. Events are critically reviewed. You can also observe plenary in Yoruba language. I am Abimbola Agbebi. Join me every Friday at 9 p.m. as I take you through the activities of the legislature.
Thank you very much for staying with us. I still have a member-elect of House of Representatives representing the Obaru Federal Constituency of Anambra State, Victor Afam Ogene. We're discussing the race to the 10th National Assembly as the battle for the principal positions hits up. All right, Honorable Victor, so it does look like the hope that zoning the leadership positions is the only way to present a united front is not working. So to put this into proper perspective, how do you think the APC should have handled this to avoid this protest by aspirants?
Well, I go back to the issues of equity. You have a serving deputy speaker who is an acclaimed workaholic, the Right Honorable Idris Wase, who everyone knows that his region, the North Central, has not held the position of speaker in almost 40 years. Now he was bypassed. You have chairman of Appropriations Committee, Right Honorable Aliyu Petera, who is also in his 5th term, like Wase. And then some others, the intelligent young man who is very fluent, who is very focused, Gadi from the same plateau. I should not be doing marketing for them. But if you have this array of people, and I've worked closely with current speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, what are the indices that will make them be bypassed? And then members, they are trying to foist a member on members as a speaker. I don't know what gives room for that kind of considerations. Maybe they will need to speak up a little better and clearer on what informed that kind of choice. But like I said, and like I keep repeating, it is the business of the All Progressives Congress. In fact, the parliament will be the better for it if it has an opposition that puts the ruling party on its toes. It's not about quarrels. When bills that impact positively on the National Assembly, on the nation, comes to the floor, I am sure that we will look beyond primordial interest and work in the interest of the Nigerian Federation. Nobody is going to seek to pull down an administration of which we are all a part of. Don't forget, the legislature is also part of government, just like the judiciary and the executive. But it is not right each time it comes to the legislature, the executive will try to foist members. What are they afraid of? These are all members of your party. So if you talk about zoning, it's even wrong, because I just mentioned The Northwest, that the position has been zoned to, has produced several speakers, from Salisu Buhari to Masari to Galinaba to Aminu Tamboa. These are all Northwesterners. How come, if you are doing zoning on the basis of equity, justice, and fairness, the North Central is bypassed? And don't forget, in the current dispensation, we have a number 4 and a number 2 coming from the same political state, Lagos. And the heavens didn't fall. So you cannot be talking about Honorable Aliyu Betara being from the same state with the incoming Vice President, Shetima. Because what is good for the goose should also be good for the gander. People are watching, people are listening, people know these facts. And that is why when you come up with these things that does not gel with equity and natural justice, people will rebel against it. They are not rebelling against the individual who is president-elect today. They are rebelling against a system that seeks to undermine an important institution like the National Assembly.
All right. Now that some lawmakers have met with APC leadership and the party has promised to look into the matter, what do you think the party should do at this point?
Yeah, the party has, luckily we still have close to a month to Inauguration Day. So, like my father would say, if you go into a river and you don't have the nerves to go further, you should at least have the good sense to retrace your steps and come back on shore. The APC has made a false start, and if they are given another opportunity, courtesy the protest by those who are affected, then they should be humble enough to retrace their steps and do the right thing, which is, of course, if they want to go the route of zoning, do it on the basis of equity. If they want to throw it all open to all members, nothing precludes us from the opposition, I did say, from running. So, but if they don't get their acts together, we'll help them to fix the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, as we, members-elect, want.
So, Honorable Victor, talking about that, we know some of the lawmakers have sent out strong statements. Some of them have argued that the APC cannot impose leaders on the National Assembly. I know you said it's not your business, but how are opposition lawmakers taking this?
Well, I told you that it's working in our favor. And only 2 days ago, we did empanel a 13-man search party to look within our ranks and see those who are interested in running for the office of Speaker and Deputy Speaker. That 13-man committee is headed by the Right Honorable Nicholas Mutu, who himself is an institutional memory of the House, having been there for about 6 tenures or more. And then I am secretary of that search party, and we decided that those who formed that committee will be left out of running. We are to search amongst our ranks, and if we find people who are sufficiently interested and capable in leading the House, we'll put them forward, and on that day, numbers will definitely speak.
So let's go back to the crisis within the APC. Let me ask this. Is there any danger in throwing the contest open to all the candidates, including the opposition?
No. Nobody is precluding the opposition from running. It's an inalienable right to run for office of Speaker and Deputy Speaker. It's our right. The APC cannot take away that God-given right guaranteed by the Constitution of Nigeria. But on the other flank, if they want to allow all their members, I think it's a better way of asserting themselves as the governing party. You know, it's a better way of governing. All members want is to vote for a presiding officer who will respect the fact that he or she is representing a particular constituency. The Speaker or the Senate President are powerful positions. If the Speaker does not recognize you to speak at plenary for 1 year, you will be shut out. All your speaking might be done outside plenary. When everybody raises their hands, or at least 20 or more people, the Speaker, in his wisdom, decides who to call. And so you need a Speaker that even can relate with members on first-name basis. You heard some of those gunning for position saying that an anonymous, in quotes, member is being foisted on them. Nobody would want a Speaker who would not even know you by first name or know where you're coming from and what you represent. So these are issues that are germane to members because, of course, your effectiveness on the floor of the House can be hampered by an intemperate Speaker.
All right, so some analysts are also of the view that the race for the Senate presidency is easier for APC to handle than Speaker of the House of Representatives. What is the reason for this?
Well, that deduction, I give you kudos as a political reporter and analyst. You are quite correct, because the Senate, you have 109 individuals that make up the Senate. In the House of Representatives, these are 360 odd members. It's easier to handle small numbers than large ones. And then I think that the number that the APC has in the Senate, you just need a few, and they would have breasted the tape. But in the House of Representatives, first you check the age of members. I think we have only about 40 members returning from the Ninth Assembly. Then you have 284 fresh members. And these are people, out of that 284, more than 60% of them are in their 30s and early 40s. So you see that these are firebrand young men and women who would want to, let me not say they're in a hurry to make an impact, but they're in the age bracket that they want to get things done. They're in the digital age. So they are not like the senators who have seen a lot through life and would naturally be calmer. In the House of Representatives, you need a speaker that they respect for there to be decorum, for there to be cohesion in the House, each and every day of plenary and even outside of plenary.
All right. So I was also going to say, could it be because these are younger individuals with more energy? But also, will it be right to say the House of Representatives has a rebellious streak? Because, Honorable Victor, this is not the first time the House will go against the ruling party.
Yeah, because the House abhors imposition. When you try to, it's like you have kids in the house, and they have come to a certain age of reasoning. They prefer that you discuss with them. They prefer that you reason with them. When you try to make impositions, even within individual homes, you get rebellion from your own children. How much more people who are representing equal constituencies? Because whether you represent 4 local governments, 1 local government, 2 or 3, we are all equal. On the day of swearing in, everybody is equal. The Speaker and Deputy Speaker are basically first among equals, and that is what it is. The fact that members talk about ranking is just to get people who are experienced guide the proceedings of the House. Besides that, Section 51B allows even freshers to go for office of presiding officers. But because of the added provision of Section 60 that gives the House and the Senate the powers to regulate its conduct, that is where they derive the power to put in their rule books that it is only returning members that should stand for certain offices. So that is why you see the rebellious streak in members. If you carry them along, they have to understand why you must appoint leaders for them. The House does not enjoy a headmaster-people relationship with the executive. We are all on the same line. And if you even want to go through the Constitution, the National Assembly, the legislature, it should be a senior partner to the executive, because that's the only defining essence of democracy. Even in military regimes all over the world, they have the executive, they have judiciary. The only missing link is the legislature. And so, in a democracy such as ours, which we keep saying is nascent, but we are all happy that it has transmuted and is maturing, in such a democracy, everybody would rebel against any streak of imposition. And I don't think that it would be wise for the incoming administration to toe that same line, because when you repeat certain mistakes, you get the same reaction.
All right, so with the crisis on ground, do you foresee a repeat of the Saraki situation at both chambers if APC failed to manage this well?
It could be more than that. It could be more than that. In the Saraki scenario, you had Saraki of the APC emerge as Senate President, and distinguished Senator Ike Kuremadu of the PDP emerged as Deputy Senate President. In this scenario, if the APC does not manage its house very well, I'm sure that the aggrieved members of the APC will team up with the greater majority made up of 7 opposition political parties and even produce the speaker. And that will be an innovation. One that is also good to look forward to, because it...
Please go ahead.
Yes, one that is good to look forward to, because it will help stabilize our polity.
All right, so let's talk about the zones and their agitations. The Southeast, for instance, has described this decision to exclude the zone from the calculations as unfair, especially zoning of the Senate presidency to the South-South. I would like you to react to that.
Well, when impunity thrives for overnight and then goes ahead, if it thrives overnight and goes into 1 year, by the next year it becomes almost like custom. What we see happening with the Southeast is the Nigerian Federation were at different turns, try to change the Southeast on the basis of certain mundane considerations. If you talk of the APC, for instance, they ask you, what did you bring to the table? But we have seen zones that brought practically nothing to the table and are rewarded. In the current scenario, the Northwest brought only 2 states to the APC. But the North Central that brought 4 states is being clearly, deliberately, and maliciously overlooked. So, but in the Southeast, we have 2 states under the canopy of the APC. So why wouldn't you give the Senate presidency to such a zone, if only it is to give them the leeway and impetus to try to grow the party in that region? So you see that whatever concerns the Southeast is treated with levity. And it's not good for a federation, for people to always have the mindset that there is a gang up, at the top levels. In the outgoing administration, the Southeast, you could count up to, in the order of protocol, more than 10, and you won't find anybody from the Southeast in that order. That has not always been the way our federation was structured.
All right. Now that we have the likes of Gagdi, Wase, and Dogua, who have refused to step down for Tajuddin Abbas, who has been shortlisted for the Speaker's job, how will you describe their actions?
The actions, first, every individual is entitled to be heard. They are ventilating their anger And they are not carrying placards. They have gone to their party headquarters to speak to their national chairman and members of the working committee to take a second look. In politics, everything is fluid. Consensus building does not end in one day. If at the end of the day they are able to close ranks, so be it. But whether they close ranks or not, the person that eventually would emerge as Speaker and Deputy Speaker will be by the grace of the generality of members of the 10th Assembly. In this case, somebody, the first person to cross 181 votes mark.
So what impact do you think this brewing disagreement is having on the polity?
Well, you know, I keep saying that dissent is a leaven in the development process. When you have a group of elected officials agree on virtually everything, then we won't make progress. We know that in the Senate Speaker is infamously known to have said that whatever the executive brings to the Senate will be passed willy-nilly, even though later they tried to amend that assertion by saying whatever good. How do you determine what is good when you have said that whatever comes to the floor? And that's what we have seen. I don't think that there is any executive bill or request that has come to the floor of the Senate that was turned down. It's not good for a democracy. Democracy entails checks and balances, separation of powers. We must ensure the entrenchment of democracy by ensuring that checks and balances are upheld.
Honorable Victor, quickly before we go, now that the APC leadership understands there is crisis, what do you think the president-elect should do at this stage to douse the tension?
Well, I think that an individual tried to sell to the Senate, to the president-elect, his own agenda and tried to turn it into a national agenda. Even the task force team you talked about, we've had that nomenclature 4 years ago when somebody ran on joint tax nation building. So when we had joint tax, we knew where they were drawing their strengths from. It's allowed, this is politics, you can form any group that you want. But specifically to your question, I think that the president-elect doesn't need this kind of crisis going into government. So it's still early in the day to retrace his steps, get party members to look at the issues again, get everybody who is interested to run for office to sit around the table, and I'm sure at the end of the day, they will come with something amenable, one that will resonate positively with all members elect from across political parties, geopolitical zones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Victor. I've been speaking with a member-elect of the House of Representatives representing the Obaru Federal Constituency of Anambra State, Victor Afam Ogene, tonight to discuss the race to the 10th National Assembly as the battle for the principal position heats up. Thank you very much for your perspective tonight. Thank you very much. It is indeed a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatiji. Goodbye.
Greasy and smelly braids can be a thing of the past. Introducing the new Ruwa braids from Expression. Made with 100% Aquatex fiber from Canicolon. The new Ruwa braids from Expression is extremely fast drying and perfect for friction-free washing. Stay dry this season with the new Ruwa braids from Expression, now available in pre-stretch and regular braid variants and in beauty shops near you.
True to our game. It's time to ignite your passion. Astonishing.
He finds that top corner.
Thrilling.
That's great effort. It's a fabulous goal. What an incredible goal.
Electrifying.
De Bruyne has got a goal.
Invigorating.
How good is he?
Stay in the game. Catch all the upcoming entertainment of this season on SuperSport, only on DSTV.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
It's been 3 decades of statehood in Yobe State, coupled with steady growth and development in all areas. A decade-long Boko Haram insurgency has also hampered the steady rise to greatness in the pride of the Sahel. But it's time for continuity, consolidation and innovation in Yobe State. Watch as Governor May Malabuni